Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your Divorce Survival Guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back. And now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact. Hey everyone, Happy New Year! I hope you've had a restful and lovely holiday week. And if you've experienced some co-parenting glitches this week, today's guest is going to help you navigate all of that. So as you know, I'm a huge fan of the co-parenting app FAYR. And today I have the creator of FAYR, Michael Daniels, on the show with me. Michael created FAYR to provide parents with a simpler, more effective way to track and keep logs that are required to prove custody schedules and events, child expenses incurred, written correspondences, and timely arrivals to pick up or drop off children, all while saving time, money, and anxiety. But that's not really why I love Michael and FAYR. I adore Michael and his app because he's not just a tech dude who's trying to ride a wave. Michael is a divorced dad who has personally shared the experiences of FAYR's users, including and especially those navigating complicated and contentious litigation. Michael created FAYR out of his own personal need, and his personal experience enables him to connect with FAYR's users and their lawyers, who are FAYR's primary clients. So take a listen while Michael and I talk all things divorce, co-parenting, and working with the legal system to create a smoother transition for all parents and their children. Michael, thank you so much for coming onto the Divorce Survival Guide podcast and talking about your app, FAYR, and your story and why you created it. And my listeners already know because I've been talking about FAYR, I think, for weeks now. So I'm excited to have you here to actually tell us all about it and why you created it.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. First of all, it's fantastic to finally be on the show with you. Why I created FAYR? Well, just to give you a little background on me. Well, first of all, FAYR. Of course, we want to be fair. In my view, people should either be generous, and if you're not going to be generous, you should at minimum be fair with one another. I think it's a good way to start a co-parenting relationship. But yeah, it stands for Family Advocacy is Your Responsibility. I don't have a problem spelling, but FAYR, Family Advocacy is Your Responsibility. And I focus on the word responsibility because I believe that it's important to recognize that we are responsible. We are response-able. That we have the ability to respond and choose our response to any given circumstance or action. Once you kind of accept that, hey, I'm in power, you no longer allow that other person's weaknesses to control your life. You don't want to empower another person's by focusing on that. You enable them to control you. And so, yeah, responsible.
Yeah.
But yeah, my story starts back in, of course, 2008. I come from home building. I studied history and architecture. I designed and built high-end luxury homes. I first started with working for a major corporation, Lennar Corp, and did that for 6 years. But what happened was during 2008, of course, the home building industry went south, and I found myself without a job. And of course, all your dreams are kind of dashed. I'm still in my 20s at this time, and married, have 2 kids, and it's very stressful. And just when you kind of need things to kind of come together and everybody support each other, all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm dealing with a separation. And so it was a very difficult time to see your world just kind of crash in front of you. And it's hard to pick yourself up from that. And I was really, I'd say there's nothing unique about my story. Everybody else goes through this stuff. A lot of people do anyway. But I just found myself never being able to be the best version of myself for my kids. I was constantly feeling like I was a failure. I was constantly feeling like, man, every day is going by and I'm not happy, and my children are seeing this, and what a shame, because I am a happy guy, but given the circumstances, I'm finding it too hard to do that. And So, but years go by, and I keep, conflict keeps arising, as everybody knows how it goes. And one day I had this one specific experience that was really the aha moment for me. And that was, I was supposed to drop the kids off 43 miles away from where I lived, down where my co-parent lived in Miami. I drive 43 miles down there. Upon getting there, nobody's home, nobody's at the gate, nobody's answering the phone, responding to messages. And so after about 30 minutes, I say, the heck with this, I'm going to go home. So I drive 43 miles back home. And upon getting home, I get a call from my attorney, who had just been contacted by her attorney, saying that I'm in violation of a court order. And I said, well, no, I was there. And they said, well, they're saying you're lying. And the material fact was the kids were not dropped off that day. And if I were to go in front of a judge, I mean, this could totally alter the entire future of my kids, being in contempt of court and things like this. And so I was really nervous about this, but fortunately I had taken the turnpike. So I was able to pull my records from the tolls, and I was able to show that I exited the toll given that particular time frame. So, I was excused of this particular accusation, but that still cost me $800 that day in legal fees with the back and forth. And the programs that I had been using, really didn't have a way to geo check in myself. And so I thought to myself, if there were a feature that could basically if there were an app basically that could take care of all the functions of Google Docs, Google spreadsheets, emails, a GPS check-in feature, I came up with that FAYR and admissible messaging. So I wanted an expense tracker basically. I wanted a really good co-parenting calendar that would show there'd be no more of these he said, she said versions of who picked up the kids on what day, because both parties claimed to have the kids the majority of the time. I was constantly getting asked for, you owe me money for this, that, and the other. And I just wanted a good expense tracker that would show really clearly everything that was going on, and something easy to use that was in your hand and made it all simple. I didn't have to save any paperwork, but particularly this geo check-in feature. So what I wanted to be able to do is I could just shown up, drop a pin with one click, leave a couple notes, and instantly she would have gotten a push notification to her phone saying that, he's there. And that's it. Case closed. There's no way she wouldn't have picked up a phone and called an attorney. It would have been on her. I would have checked in. I'm here on time. And I would have checked in and said, hey, I'm leaving now. I was here for 30 minutes. I'm out of here. And that would have been the end of story. And I would have saved myself $800. So, so in the process of doing all of this, I just decided that I'm going to create an app. I'm going to create one that's really, and I come from the design world. And so for me, I'm really, well, we all are, but me in particular, everywhere I go, I'm always looking at line of sight. I'm always at colors and textures. I mean, it's my world, but people don't understand that it does affect us. And so I wanted to create something that was also going to be visually pleasing, psychologically conflict diffusing, just given its soft color tones, casual fonts, and things like that. And so, so I'm really proud of what I created. I really am.
And it is. I mean, that's what one of my favorite things about the FAYR app is just that it's really pretty. Like it really is. The color tones are beautiful. There's also like different colors, but they're all in the same scheme. Like it is, and it's so easy to use. It's so simple, right? Like I was even saying, I was like, shit. I mean, my ex and I don't need it because we're just so flexible all the time, and we do. And I'm like, I kind of want to use it because it's so nice and simple,
Well, I appreciate that. That makes me feel really good to hear, because that's really what I wanted it to be. I just wanted it to be pleasing.
And the other thing that I think is really important, because I hear this all the time from my clients and the women in my Facebook group and people who follow me, is that, where can I store screenshots? Right? He's sending me all of this crazy shit, or he did this or whatever. There's all of these screenshots. And they're like, what do I do with them? And I'm always like, download the FAYR app and you can upload all of these screenshots into, and have that be part of your record. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, you can log it, track it, and forget about it. Like that's the best part of it. I'm a meticulous guy when it comes to that stuff, and saving all the receipts and reconciling daily logs every night. It takes a lot of time, and it's exhausting because you're reliving those emotions, logging it in, and you're thinking about how you're going to need this. Well, with FAYR, like I don't have to worry about, hey, where did I put that receipt from the doctor? I shoved it in my glove box, or the other one on the side panel of my door. The other one's in my wallet, and you have to like bring them all back out. And you can just snap a picture of it, categorize it as either, medical, uncover medical, dental, school supplies, extracurricular, all sorts of different categories that you categorize it in. And then you can search it later and you can see everything there. There's a pie chart that will show the percentage, beautifully show the percentage of your contributions, your co-parents' contributions. And it just mitigates things from escalating unnecessarily. Because I think a lot of times it's just misunderstandings and disagreements. I don't want to call people bad people. I mean, there are truly bad people, sure. But a lot of people, it is just misunderstandings and disagreements that escalate. And a lot of that can be eliminated with just better communication. But it's hard. It's hard to communicate with a person that you've been in a civil suit with, right? I mean, what other area of life are you in a civil suit with somebody and have to go on communicating with them for years to come?
There's no other area. There's no other, time where you have to break up with someone and then continue to be in communication with them all the time, right? Like you're trying to heal your broken heart while trying to negotiate this new. I mean, it's a shit show, in the best of times, right?
Yeah, and your children are growing up in that shit show. They're growing up in that, and that's it's bad, man. It's really bad.
So how do you deal with? I mean, I'm curious about your situation too. Like, when you've got someone who doesn't want to cooperate with you, or is being really combative, or it's high conflict. How do you get them to use this app with you? Because if their purpose is conflict, to wear you down, to exhaust you, and the purpose of the app is to mitigate conflict, how do you get someone like that to agree to use something like this?
That is an excellent question. And when you come up with the answer to that, you let me know.
I will. Thank you.
The only way I know right now is you get a court order.
Right.
That's the only way to do it.
So this is actually that's actually really important. Is that that courts actually are mandating this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's written into settlement agreements by attorneys. I mean, magistrates, judges, guardians. Psychologists, anybody who has the ability to write it into a settlement agreement. Yeah, we have a lot of buy-in. We're doing well, and I'm very pleased to see how many people whose lives are getting a little better. But you're right. Speaking of what you were saying earlier, I mean, there are situations where people, their game is conflict, and a lot of that is just a reflection of their own relationship with themselves. I mean, it's just it's not a you thing. A lot of times, it's that person just wants conflict in life. Yeah. I've got my theories on a lot of that stuff. I think a lot of people just need a reason to say that why they're not where they need to be in life. And they got to create this big monster in you as a person to say that, well, I would be doing great if it weren't for this monster. Yeah. And they got to maintain you. You got to stay that monster forever. And
that is right. Exactly down to the name of your app, right? That they don't want to be responsible. They don't want to be responsible.
They don't want to be fair. Yeah, they don't want to be fair. They don't want to seek advocacy for their family. And that's the best thing you can do to better any situation in life, I don't care what it is, in a company, if you're in any field of, in just any field, it's the better communication. You take any team, make the communication better, and you just increased viability of the organization, or just the efficiency always gets better when communication is improved. And so this is my sincere effort at trying to improve communication on the most core and crucial areas of co-parenting. So I don't know. I just think I think a lot of people would benefit, and I do understand that some people want things to stay opaque. They want there to be ambiguity in the record, and they're benefiting from that. And the best way to do it is, look, you do it anyway. Because if you're using FAYR and your co-parent's not using FAYR, you can tell because every time you do it, you send the invite to your co-parent, and they get a notification on their phone saying, hey, Jill just invited you to use FAYR. All you have to do is click here, and you can create an account, and you can accept, and now everything is transparent. So if you go to a court motion, you can say, hey, listen, I signed up on this thing. I want to provide full transparency here. You're going to win by default.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going to be viewed as a responsible
And
parent.
I say this to my clients and my people, my followers, all the time. My followers, that's a terrible thing to say. Whatever. Like my listeners, in my Facebook group. It's sort of like the whole conglomeration of everything is. I talk about this all the time, right? I always say, keep your side of the street squeaky fucking clean. right? It
Yep.
doesn't matter
Yep.
what kind of a mess is going on the other side of the street. You keep your side of the street squeaky clean, and you can say, here's the deal. I have been using this app. He was refusing to comply with it, but I have been doing everything that I am supposed to do. And when that goes to court, guess who looks like the asshole? you know, at best, the asshole, but at worst, like someone who is not committed to collaborating in service of their children. And judges don't look kindly on those things.
You're absolutely right. No, you just hit it on the head right there. They don't. Judges know, and the parent who's making the best effort to communicate and to document well, they're always assumed to be the more responsible parent. And
Yes.
and you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong by using a co-parenting app. Hey, there are a lot of co-parenting apps out there, and you know what? You're always better off using one of them. I like people to use FAYR, but it's just use one, man, and you're gonna do yourself a lot of service. Good service.
Yep. I absolutely agree. Okay, so let's say people are like just at the beginning stages of this, right? They're like brand new. They're just like trying to pull apart all the pieces and the threads, and they're unraveling, right?
Yeah.
What advice do you have, or what tips do you have for co-parents who are just at the starting line?
I would say, of course, there's a cliche out there, begin with the end in mind. I think that's Stephen R. Covey's 7 Habits, begin with the end in mind. It's important to do that because it is so easy to get reactive, emotional, impulsive. I mean, just when your attorney needs you to be very careful with what you say, write, and do, I would say, just shelf it. Realize that you got to play 4D chess. Like you've got to really. Yeah, you do.
4D chess. What does that mean?
Four-dimensional chess. I mean, in the sense that you've got to hide your cards. You've got to be very careful with the things you say, write, and do. Do not get emotional. Do not lash out. All of that is serving them. I mean, you're in the tank for them whenever you get out of control. Yeah. That's the most important one. I mean, it's important also for your kids. And do not discuss any of this stuff with your children. Because really it's about, they're going through this too. You're going through it, but honestly, this is part of their life, and this is a big chapter in their story. And being conscious of that is really important. So I try to just tell people, the problem I'm really trying to solve here is just to make people better people and to make people happy people. And mitigate some of the problems. I mean, if people were more aware of the effects of on children and these things, I mean, they are twice as likely, children from broken homes. And it's not to say that staying together is the solution here, because I think people need to be divorced if they don't get along, for your happiness, for everyone's happiness. But it's the way we deal with it that's causing these problems that I'm about to lay out. They're twice as likely to commit suicide. They are twice as likely to drop out of high school. They're diagnosed for what is it? They suffer from speech defects, asthma, and headaches at a much higher rate. They're diagnosed for depression, loneliness, and I don't remember what the other one is. But the point is, they're medicated for all these things at a much higher rate. I mean, they're way less likely to have any money put away for them later on in life for their educational needs, all because of these divorces.
And it's not. This is the thing that I say all the time is that it's not divorce itself; it's the way we're doing it. Right? It is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. So I like to be very careful about that because people hear that statistic and they use it as a reason not to get divorced, right?
Not to get divorced.
Or their husbands say like, you were going to fuck up our kids. They're going to become drug addicts and all of these things. There are all these statistics. And it's like, no. The statistics are not about the divorce itself. It's the way that we do it. It's the high conflict, putting the kids in the middle and tearing them apart. That'll fuck up a kid for life.
Yep. For life, for life. And they carry it into their future with their future spouses. I mean, they look to us to interpret their world for them. They're little tiny children. And we are the people who interpret their world. And if we're showing them this is the way you relate with others, they're going to emulate that. And you hit it on the head, because it's not even about divorce, because honestly, 40% of children being born today are being born out of wedlock. And so it's just a matter of how we co-parent. Yes. That is really what is causing the problem. It can be a wonderful thing if we just choose to make it wonderful. But I know it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Divorce is hard on people. And the process is really hard on people, because it can take up to even a contested custody battle could take up to 2-3 years. I mean, I think 3 years is the backlog of the highest counties in the country. It costs an average $22,500, and that really is hard on people, and it's hard not to get really mad when somebody else is causing you this kind of money. But look, you got to look out for your children.
And and I think you make a really good point, is that it's really hard, especially the transition, right? The transition from married people to like when you say that, you want to begin with the end in mind, right? We have this idea of what we want to create, which in my, just not to like, yes, a shameless plug for one of my products, which is the Ultimate Divorce Survival Guide. I have in there something called a mutual vision statement, which is something that you do create with your ex. Like you create a vision for what it is that you want to create in the future, right? You create yours, they create theirs. You try to blend them together if possible. If not, it doesn't matter. You create your own. And that's in my Ultimate Divorce Survival Guide, which you can buy for $27 on my website.
I love it.
But the point is that there's this gap, right? There's where we are now, there's what we want to create in the future, and then there's this bridge that we have to build to get there. And I think that what the FAYR app does is help bridge that gap, right? It really helps create that bridge between where we are now and where we want to go, because there's so much heat there, and something that is as structured as an app like this can keep us on track and out of getting like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and angry and like all of that, right? And like, right, when you're and I think, even just the very act of communicating through an app that can be viewed by courts, by attorneys and judges, changes the way that you communicate, right? It's like its own tone police in it. It's like, okay, I'm not going to act like a crazy asshole. I'm not going to say the things that I might text her or him when no one's watching. I'm going to say the things that are appropriate because I know someone's watching. Right. And there's a nice protective mechanism just in and of itself. Right.
I completely agree.
Yeah. I think I think that's why it's so important that these apps are used, even if you're doing this completely collaboratively and you're really like, right. And you feel like you can do it, use the app.
Oh yeah.
Use it.
Well, just cause like I tell people, man, married people should use it. For God's sakes,
right?
We live in a world now. We live in a world now with 2 different bank accounts, 2 different incomes, this sort of thing, and just the feature of just the expense feature. Because I mean, people get angry. Finance is a big reason why people end up getting divorced. It's people feel like, hey, my income's going to knock out everything for the children here, and you're dropping it on a new car or Harley Davidson or something like that, and it gets people upset. Yeah. Causes a lot of animosity to be built, or just the co-parenting calendar of knowing, hey, your son's soccer practice is coming up, and there's the location, and you don't have to worry about, oh shoot, she had texted me that.
And you're scrolling back, where is it? Oh my God, right?
It's there's the day. It'll send you a notification. It'll even have the location. Just click on it, and it'll go right to your iMaps or Google Maps, and automatically send it there. Everything's seamlessly integrated, and it just makes life really easy. And you just avoid in relationships, people kind of get upset. I reminded you yesterday. You don't remember, and that you're calling me again to ask me again. And like, people get annoyed having to repeat themselves. They just feel
like every day, every week, every week. I told you.
Well, yeah. Well, to me, it's being able to communicate very well without even having to communicate verbally. I just and for people who think, oh no, we get along now. Well, that's great. I've gone through windows in time where I think I'm getting along too, and then people are out of nowhere, something will escalate into something, and then I'm like, shit. And then I'm trying to reconstruct the audit trail 6 months down the road, and I don't remember what happened, and that's what happens. Right. You don't want to be caught unprepared.
So can I ask you? Do you use it? Will she use it with you?
I use it. No, she right. Well, the problem is we do use a. Not very, and it really isn't nearly as all-encompassing as FAYR, but We have been ordered to use one because I requested. I said I want to use something at least, but she won't use mine because I own it basically. Because since I own it, I don't. She don't.
Exactly. Got it. So speaking of other things out there, how does FAYR differ? Right, because there are tons of options. Right.
Yeah, there are.
So how does FAYR differ from the other ones out there? And
well, if you speak Spanish, FAYR is your only option because we're the only co-parenting app that's fully in Spanish. I'm based in Miami area, so Spanish was a very, very important thing to have around here. So we did build it completely out in Spanish as well. FAYR is priced better than our major competitors out there. We're about 20% less. We're with your code K Anthony. If they put K Anthony in, anybody gets 20% off the subscription, which we offer monthly. Others don't offer monthly, so it can either be $7.99 a month, which basically for what you'd spend at a single Starbucks visit.
Right, that's like nothing,
nothing. So $7.99 a month, or $79 a year, or we have $199 for 3 years. So FAYR has a lot of pricing models depending on what's best for you. So we try to be the best app, very user friendly and very. Our user interface, I'm very proud of it. I mean, we're one click between functions. About everybody else, it takes I just don't understand why they did the navigation the way they did, honestly. But we have extremely good navigation, and you're very familiar with it. We were the first to have GPS check-ins. We were the first app to do it. The one I described earlier. My whole impetus for creating the app. But since then, a lot of other people have followed suit. And so, the good thing is everyone's always in an arms race to make it better and better and better, right? And we're always listening to folks and asking them how we can make it better. But I just wanted to make one that worked really well. It was visually pleasing, and it was better price. It was a better app at a better price. And we're in Spanish. There you go.
And what? And you're in Spanish, right? Yeah.
And we're in Spanish.
And I will say, having looked at a lot of them, and the fact that it's app based, right? Because one of
that's
one of your competitors that is very commonly used through the courts is kind of completely antiquated, and they just haven't kept up with technology, and it's only available on desktop.
Well, many of their functions, I mean, they have an app for some of its functions, but FAYR, all of its functions are app based. Whereas some of the other apps, like some of the functions, you got to go home to do that
and
from
that's
a
just
web-based.
Who has time for that, right? And like you said, and I think what you said is really important, Michael, is that you are having to emotionally relive your day, the situation, or whatever. Every time you have to go home and input information, and that's just.
Right. Well, you're trying to keep it on your brain all day, and at the end of the day, because you have to reconcile it with that log you've got back home, and it's like, I don't want to relive that tonight. I want to be over it with it now and forget about it. And then you sleep more peacefully too when the record's clear, and you're like, all right, whatever. You can shout out and get as mad as you want. Bottom line is, it's there. It's incontestable, and I'm going to be good. And it just takes away the anxiety. Saves a lot of cost too, as I tell you. A paralegal is going to charge anywhere between $80 to $120 an hour to put all this stuff together in a court-ready, admissible exhibit.
So, all right, is there anything else that you think people should know? There is something really exciting that I want you to tell everybody.
About Planet of the Apps,
maybe? Yes.
The cool thing was, when I got started on this in July of 2016, it was funny. Just a month later, I ended up getting contacted by Apple Computers, who was having their first ever tech series. So only a month after starting to code this thing. Thank God, I've always believed cheap is expensive, and so I hired the same people who created Citibank's app to code this out, because I didn't know anything about code. And thank God I did, because when Apple wanted to find interesting apps, they went out and contacted the big developers who created the best apps in the industry, and they said, "Do you have anybody interesting?" And they said, "Yeah, we got this guy in Florida." And so they contacted me, and they had like about 10,000 apps that they considered. Of the 10,000, about 100 got to pitch, and of the 100, 20 of us got partnerships, and I was one of the 20.
Wow.
And so Gwyneth Paltrow is an advisor to the company, and it's kind of exciting. It's just kind of exciting to have her support. She gets it. She's really gracious on this subject, and it's nice because this subject affects every social, economic situation on the planet. Like everybody, no one's immune to this, and that's the beauty of having her involvement to kind of really speak to that.
I so agree with that. And I always talk about how she and Chris Martin were really the first people to come out and talk about this whole conscious uncoupling and and doing this in a different way. So I think her as being one of like your spokespeople and being so supportive and behind this is, I think it speaks volumes for what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to know that people like her care.
Yes.
I mean, that's nice.
Michael, I am so happy that you came and spoke to us. Everything is in the show notes. As Michael said, if you use the code KAnthony when you sign up for the FAYR app on the website befayr.com, FAYR, you're going to get 20% off your subscription. And all of that, again, is in the show notes. Is there anything else you want people to know before we sign off?
No, I'm it's very, very appreciative for your time. Thank you very much, Kate. I love it.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.